Ava and Carol Detective Agency. The Mystery of the Pharaoh's Diamonds. Ava opened her laptop and slid it over to Carol, who navigated to Google Chrome and clicked on Hugo's photo magic software from Ava's favorites. She slipped off her USB bracelet and stuck it into the laptop. Once the program loaded, Carol opened the folder and uploaded the image. The newly enchanted image filled the screen. "Your talents are limitless," Ava praised. "You never cease to amaze me."
"Flattery will get you nowhere,"
Carol sighed.
"So, looking at the image, there are 3 components revealed. You may want to get your tiny notebook out for this."
"You're so funny." "Not."
Ignoring that comment and moving on, the first clue is the number 346, which we've pretty much established as part of a phone number. The next,
Carol zoomed in,
is the lower half of a face.
Ava nodded. It's a woman's mouth and chin. There is something so familiar about that smile. I know I've seen it before.
"It does look familiar,"
Carol agreed.
The third clue is the statue. It looks like it's part of a bust of someone's head, perhaps a famous historical figure like Caesar or David.
David. Ava rolled her eyes. I hate that statue. He needs a fig leaf or some board shorts, said Ava emphatically.
Businesses like to use famous icons as their logos or trademarks. Let's see if we can find any telephone numbers that end in 346 and have something in common with the artwork.
Ava tapped her incredibly small pencil against her forehead. I know that mouth. Don't worry, it'll come to me. Ah, the infamous forehead tapping. I've done that a few times, smiled Ava's mom as she sauntered into the kitchen. She had her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail and wore midnight blue glasses atop her head. She was holding a bright orange coffee mug that read, "Ain't no hood like parenthood." "Afternoon, Mom," said Ava, deep in thought.
"Good afternoon, Mrs. Clark,"
smiled Carol, beaming up at Ava's mom.
"I love the glasses."
"Good afternoon, and thank you, Carol. How's the investigation coming along?" she asked in the middle of a stretch yawn.
"How did you even know we were investigating something?"
"Oh, Mom's intuition, my journalistic power of observation, my ability to spot a story from a mile away."
"That's incredible,"
said Carol. "Actually, I used these," she said, pointing to her ears. "You two aren't exactly quiet, you know." "Ah, yes, the formidable parental listening device," whispered Ava. "They've been my nemesis since I was a child." Mrs. Clark placed a hand on the table and took a sip of coffee. "Care to share, or is this top secret?" Carol looked at Ava, afraid to speak first, fearing that she may break some type of friendship trust rule by divulging information. Ava gave her the smallest of nods.
"So..."
Carol squinched up her face, afraid to continue.
"Ava and I have been collecting clues, trying to solve the museum robbery."
"Before you say anything, Mom, we're just doing our own safe investigation. We're not talking to anyone. We're just looking at clues. Call it solving from afar."
"Oh,"
said Ava's mom as she put down her coffee cup. She crossed her arms and turned her attention back to Carol. Carol wasn't sure if it was an "oh," as in interesting, or an "oh," as in you did what? You're grounded for life. She eyed Ava's mom, trying to sort out her expression as she talked.
"And we've made a major breakthrough."
Carol looked at Ava, who waved her hand for her to continue.
In a nutshell, we visited the museum and learned that the thieves broke in through the second-story window and that they had inside help. We also learned that some of the security video had simply vanished.
Ava nodded and took up the story. Then Carol had the brilliant idea of going to the bank across the street because the ATM camera faces the side of the museum and the window they used to get in.
That's good detective work,
smiled Ava's mom. Mr. Talbot let us watch the bank's ATM video, and this is where it gets really interesting, said Ava.
This is already fascinating,
said Mrs. Clark, transforming from mom to journalist.
What did the video show?
A delivery truck pulled up to the museum in the middle of the night, answered Ava. The bad guys wore some kind of reflective clothing that made them look like aliens.
Interesting,
said Mrs. Clark.
Thieves are using modified glasses that reflect light. It pretty much blinds the camera.
They tried to be sneaky by covering the side of the truck with a tarp, but the wind was blowing like crazy. It lifted the tarp, and we saw the number 346, and we're guessing this is some type of logo. Ava pointed to the picture on the screen. There's a bottom half of a woman's face and a statue. Mrs. Clark leaned in and stared at the screen.
Ah, I see. You only have the bottom of the nose and the lips of the woman.
Ava's mom began to smile, just like the woman in the painting.
You know who that smile belongs to, right?
It's a very famous painting.
May I?
She asked, pointing to the laptop. Sure, Mom. Go for it. Mrs. Clark opened a new tab in the browser. Her fingers quickly raced across the keyboard. She smiled and turned the laptop around to show the girls.
Ugh,
said Carol, smacking her forehead.
Of course! Mona Lisa, painted by Leonardo da Vinci.
Mom, you're a genius. Thank you, said Ava proudly.
You girls would have figured it out. May I see the image of the van one more time?
It's still open, said Ava as she turned the laptop back toward her mom. Carol thinks that the statue or sculpture is Caesar. Ava's mom stared at the image and nodded.
That's a great guess. You can see the chin and the neck and the armor with the fringes on the shoulders. Again, this is a very famous sculpture. I think Carol's right. Now we just need to figure out who has a logo with Mona Lisa and Caesar and 346 as the last 3 digits of their phone number,
said Carol excitedly.
Oh, I forgot to ask. How did you know the thieves robbed the museum through a window? We watched them, said Carol. Someone from inside the museum threw a rope ladder down and they climbed up it. So we know that at least 3 people are involved.
The thought of the criminals seemed to jar something loose in Ava's mom.
Girls,
she said softly, in a tone that every child recognizes as, I'm proud of you, but now it's time to back off. I don't mind if you work on clues here or someplace safe, like the library, but these thieves can be dangerous, and I don't want anything to happen to you. Ava felt like her mother had put training wheels on her 10-speed. This is our first real case, and Mom is already putting on the brakes. Mom, we're so close. We'll be super careful, said Ava, her voice filled with disappointment. You always said I had great instincts, that I was just like you when you were a kid. I know how to keep myself out of danger. And, Ava said, gesturing towards Carol, she plays the bassoon. Tell me, in all your life as an investigative journalist, have you ever heard of a bassoonist getting in trouble or putting their life in danger? Ava gave her mother an I rest my case look.
And again, she casts shade on me,
whispered Carol. She made a mental note to adorn Ava's locker her notebooks, her bike, her forehead, with stickers that read, "Bassoon Life." Ava's mom stared at her daughter for what felt like an eternity. "I will let you continue your investigation." "Thank you, thank you," Ava interrupted, jumping up to hug her mom. "Wait," she said, putting a hand on each of Ava's shoulders, staring into her eyes. "If I even get a hint that you girls are doing anything even remotely dangerous, your investigation stops." She looked from Ava to Carol and back to Ava. "Is that understood?" she asked seriously. "Yes, ma'am," they answered quietly. "Okay," smiled Mrs. Clark.
If you're enjoying Thomas Lockhaven's audiobook content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way to help out the channel.